Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Madison Mortgage podcast. Today's guest is Eric Gasper, the one and only. Only met one guy like Eric Gasper in my whole life. I'm sure is the only style I'll ever meet. And Eric is a top producing LO in the business. In fact, he is the number one originator in the broker side in the state of New York. And so I thought it would be a great opportunity to jump him on here and discuss a little bit of his experience in the business and some best practices to help other LOs who are trying to scale. Eric's someone who came in doing between 5 and 10 loans a month consistently from a retail organization, and now is consistently doing between 35 and 40 and has closed as many as 47 transactions in a single month. So Eric, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And I guess let's just dive right in, man. Let's talk a little bit about, how and when did you get started in the mortgage industry? Tell us your story a little bit.
Look, I started in the mortgage industry right after 9/11 happened. Back then, it was everybody that wanted to get into sales was more into stocks. So stocks was the hot commodity at the time.
Yeah.
And I remember interviewing for a couple of firms, and I was going to school at the time. I was going to Baruch. It was my first year of college.
That's right.
And
what was your background again? I think it was
accounting.
Accounting, right.
Accounting.
I
was going to be a CPA, but then I morphed myself into
a mortgage
broker.
Professional. Yeah, love it.
So one of my buddies that I was pretty close with, there was a group of us, and he told me he just made $10,000 that month. So I was thinking in my head at that time, if he made 10, God knows how much I'm going to be making. Right?
Okay,
so
I like it.
I was going to school at the time. I interviewed, and I always had the gift to gab. I love sales. I didn't even know what I was doing, but the rates took a major dive after 9/11. You know, people that just refinanced, they probably had 7.5. Their rates went to 5.5 overnight.
Yeah, the rates dropped a lot as a result. Yep.
And I asked God, give me an opportunity. And
the rest is history.
The rest is history.
Love it.
It's stuck with me ever since.
Okay, so that was like 01. So you've been in the business about 20 years now.
20 years.
Awesome. And you've been predominantly, with the exception of the last like 3 or 4, have been in retail, working for retail organizations.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
I've always been retail, other than
us working together.
Yes.
Yeah, great. So tell us a little bit about your view kind of on the current state of the mortgage market. For somebody who's been in it for 20 years, who's seen the up, down, the sideways, give us your perspective on just kind of where things are in the mortgage business.
I think the consumers are much, much more educated.
Yeah.
They always have. They have been to an extent, but now they are much more aware of everything that's out there.
Yeah.
As far as closing costs, interest rates, values, what their ultimate goals are.
Yep.
And we're here to provide
which is a great
the best
thing.
Service that there is.
Yeah.
Right? Like our competitors, a lot of them are all automated. Right? Or they'll speak to a customer service representative one time on the telephone.
Yeah.
Us, we hold your hand from start to finish. Right? That's what I learned from the retail platform because of the amount of money that you can make on the retail platform.
Got it. Eric, tell me about your general approach to the challenges and the sort of high pressure nature of the mortgage business, right? Like, how do you generally approach your day? What's your process? What's your schedule? I know it tends to vary for some, but just give some advice on sort of your approach. Obviously your approach is working. You're closing a lot of loans. So.
Sale.
Yeah.
Close.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Explain that. Elaborate.
It'll all come together. I know for a fact if my loan is sold, I will close it. It doesn't matter how I will do it or the way that we'll approach the situation if something comes up, but we will close your loan. If my loan is a sale, unless it's something that I can't foresee, there's a judgment on title, there's a water bill the guy hasn't paid, or if his home doesn't come appraised or he has a hole in his ceiling that he has not shared with me, I know for a fact that loan is closing.
Cool.
Right? So the focus is let's get as many sales in as we can, and then we'll close them.
Got you. Yeah, and that's sort of evident, like when it comes to like sort of month end, and despite you having a lot of processors working on your loans and they're pushing, you'll go in and sort of give that extra push and hey, I know I have these 15 loans that are good targets for the next 2 business days. Like, go into your processors and like, where can I help?
Yes.
Right. I think a lot of people sort of lose that. They sort of, set up the loan, get it sort of structured, not in this environment, but like in other organizations where they'll sort of toss them up and then just like figure it all out at the end, as opposed to saying, where can I help? Where can I contribute? Where can I jump in and solve a problem where a problem might exist, or not a problem, but like address a challenge associated with
Well,
the loan.
we're all a team. I'm
100%.
only as good as my opener, my processor, my closer, my LOA. Shout out to my LOAs. I wouldn't be where I am without all of you.
Agreed.
And I love all of you, and I love my whole team. So I'm just as strong as everybody else that I work with. And that's, I think, how we progress to be where we are and where we are going to take our operation.
Agreed. Cool, man. So let's talk a little bit about what your experience has been like sort of as an independent mortgage advisor, and specifically, of course, with Madison Mortgage. And I know we're great, but like really talk about like mindset focus in terms of like what changed when you come over. Like I always try to educate loan officers. I get so many calls on a regular basis every week, like, oh, we heard the broker world's great, but could you sort of detail from the from the LO standpoint, as somebody who came over from retail, like the focal difference between like client experience being the main focus versus commission not being the focus? Could you touch on some of that and some of your approach and how it helped you scale your business dramatically?
I mean, it's a world of opportunity. My life is totally different. I feel good about myself every single day. You know that you're giving the best service to the client, and I truly am. And I think that's how we scale to where we are, is just because, I'll give you an example. I was in my office, and borrowers that I am pretty close with, that I know, used to come into my office with all these good faith estimates, all these documents. I said, this is fake. Can't be real. And then I met you. Thank God. You showed me the ropes, and I just saw how we could scale, how we could take our business. It's all about clients and doing the best that you can for them, right? Like I genuinely feel good when I'm closing a loan. It's not about money. It's not about this. We're capped as a broker, right?
Yep.
It doesn't matter. I go borrower paid, lender paid. I build a relationship with every single borrower. They know the product, what we're giving them. Yep. We're holding their hand through the whole situation, and I truly feel that we are the best.
We are. And I think the distinction that rarely gets made, though, is like people come over from the banker side, from the retail side, and they're so focused on trying to make a specific amount of money on every single transaction. Like, oh, I make 175 basis points on every deal, as opposed to the problem with that thinking and that methodology is that it's small. It doesn't equate to scale. Whereas like, yes, you might make less per transaction in the broker world, but there's so much margin in the retail rates that the real loser when somebody uses a retail organization to get a mortgage is the borrower, right? Whereas when you go to a broker, and this is factual information, you're going to get a better deal. You're going to get a better rate. So I think for most LOs, what's transformative, and I think what changed your business and the way that you approach things, and I commend you for it, is you acknowledge that you would make substantially less per transaction, but have the capacity to do a lot more transactions. And the real winner at the end of the day is the consumer. It's easy. They're getting a great deal. They're closing their loan in, well, we average 17 days, where most other banks are in the 30, 45, 60 days, right? We hear the horror stories every day, and they're coming over. I've been working with my bank for 60 days, and we close them in a week, right? And it sounds crazy until you actually jump in and do it, right? And so it's like, I think, it's like, it almost like the old expression is like, it's better to make, fast quarters and take care of your clients than to try and chase really slow dollars, right? And I think that's lost on people. And I think for me, that's what I would highlight the most in explaining sort of the differential
Yes.
right, between the business, right? Like you might have done 5 loans in retail, but guess what? You did 47, in broker, and all your consumers got an amazing deal, and you wound up making a lot more money in the end doing that and taking care of your clients and making sure they had a great experience. Is that kind of hit on some of?
It's hard work.
Yeah, it's
hard
hard
work.
It's a lot more
right?
work.
It's hard work.
Yep.
Right. Like I used to close, X amount of dollars,
It was easier.
X amount of loans, hang out, make the same amount of money that I'm making now. Right. But volume wise, it's different. My telephone rings from morning to night.
Nonstop.
Right. And it's just like, you have to have the mentality for it. If you're a retail LO closing 5 deals a month, guess what? We don't want you. And if you do not have that ambition inside of you to know where you could take your platform, because you could go from doing 5 loans to 10 loans to 20 loans to 40 loans to 100 loans, to sky's the limit, right? Like I am at a point, and please don't take it the wrong way, it's like I'm invincible, right?
Yeah, you can't
in
be
the
beat.
mortgage business, I cannot be beat.
Right.
It doesn't matter. My doctor that I go to for checkups, a company, I don't want to say their name, right, unless I can say their name, which, offers clients a beautiful deal on paper. I looked at it. I knew it was not believable. Loan's clear to close right now. The borrower has to bring $15,000 to closing, and guess what? His loan's clear to close with me.
Yeah.
At $7,000 less than cost.
I know.
So
And
it's kind of like,
every day.
it's every day, and
That's
it's
the
good.
game.
I'm so happy I made the move, right? From retail to broker. It's a totally different animal. It's with UWM, what they bring to the table. It's like, it's all for the taking, guys.
Yep.
Like you guys on the retail side,
They don't get it. They will. They're starting to get it, right?
my juniors are running laps around you.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I know.
wake up and smell the coffee.
Yeah, they don't see it. And it's like, and in fairness, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a blind spot for them.
Yeah.
They don't understand. Some of them are starting to realize it. Some are making the jump, and they're realizing it slowly. But tell me about like advice to, for LOs to scale their business. Like, what advice would you give LOs? And I think we just touched on a lot of it, but, besides come to Madison and do more volume and work hard and, close more loans, what advice would you give people approaching this business, especially as we're starting to get into an environment where rates are starting to tick up a little bit? And so the folks that are very refi centric will experience challenges, especially if their rates are not very competitive. What's your sort of advice to them?
I always put myself in the client's shoes, right? So I analyze it. First, I hear what they need, what their wants are. But then I'll really analyze their situation. I'll go through their credit report, their income. I know what they could afford. I find, what is the expectancy of them keeping this mortgage for how many years? Are they going to move? I truly, I analyze their situation, and then I'll give them my 2 cents afterwards.
Right. Like,
Right.
what would your approach
What would
be?
I do if I was in his
Being an
shoes?
advisor.
Yeah, what would I do if I was in his shoes? And you know what? The client appreciates it, right? You have to be a chameleon. You have to know what customer A wants, what customer B wants, what customer C wants, and how we can make them all happy.
Yep.
Right? Because we always want the best for the client.
100%.
Whatever is the best for the client, that's what we want.
Yep. Love it.
And,
okay, that's good advice.
I think coming into this business, be yourself, be original, but hard work pays off.
Yeah.
Right? Like I know, I can't tell you, so many people, right, that are so intelligent, such a waste, right? Like they come to work, they work a 9 to 5, and then you have, somebody like myself where, loans aren't an issue, money, but I'm still in the office until 10:30, 11 o'clock. I see the opportunity, it's in me. And then I have my loan officers that are weak. I have loan officers that are weak that pour their heart out. They work morning to night, but you know what? At the end of the day, hard work pays off.
Yeah.
Right? And hard work.
Hard work is your advice.
Hard work.
It's just funny. Somebody recently said to me, like, the old adage is like, work smarter, not harder, right? But it's like, my perspective is like, work smarter and harder, right? Do both, right? And it's like, you got to outwork your competition. Something I learned from a real smart guy in the mortgage business, Matt Ishbia, who's up in the office at 4 a.m. and, a guy works, unlimited, unrelenting hours. And, you got to work hard in this business if you want to make it. Especially if you want to scale your business, you got to put the hours in. At least that's certainly my experience. I know it's yours. We put in a lot of hours, but I like it. I get up every day and I like coming here.
I love it.
I love working in this business. I love helping people. It's fun. All right, let's transition into talking about a lot of people. I get this question so much, man. A lot of people say, like, what type of personalities do well in the mortgage business, right? And a lot of people think it's like, oh, you're just a good salesperson, right? But I don't think so, because I think you got to be just more than a good salesperson, because ultimately, like, mortgages are a commodity product, right? It's like you're not really selling, you're more like advising, right? So give me your assessment of, like, what type of personalities and skill sets tend to do well and would make a very successful mortgage loan originator.
I think personality is everything, right? But you attract you, right? So for some of our loan officers here, you don't even have to tell me who's the loan officer on the file. I already know whose loan it is, because I could already tell by the borrower.
Based on the type of client?
Right, based on the type of client. If the guy is very analytical, the borrower is not so analytical.
You could tell based on style.
I could tell by the style of the sale. And it is really personality, your product, your speed, your team behind you.
So do you think
your company behind you? You could be the best salesman in the world, but if you work for, ABC Mortgage
sure.
Corp and God knows wherever, what are you doing?
So you mean, like, what your general sort of assessment to that is like every personality style could work, because there's a type of borrower for every type of personality,
Yes.
a type of client for every type of personality.
Yes.
All right. So what do you think are the characteristics that are mandatory to be a successful mortgage loan originator?
You have to be a people person.
Yep.
Right. You have to be personable.
I agree with that.
People want they want to hang out with Zach Morris, not Screech from Saved by the Bell, right? So
okay,
you got to have some kind of personality. You got to have some kind of swagger with you.
Okay, I like it.
Whether it's and depends. Do you, right? Like, what you might think is cool is not cool to somebody else, but it's your personality, your work ethic, your intelligence. The more we learn, the better that we get.
100%.
Right? So, like, you just want to learn, and you want to continue to learn. And I even continue to learn every single day.
Me too.
Right? Like, I learn something new every single. I didn't even know something existed the other day. I'm like, oh, wow.
Learning new that's what's so cool about the mortgage business that people don't realize. It's like it's so dynamic. There's always things that are changing. There's always new product. There's always new challenge. There's always new guidelines. There's always a different way to slice it, right? And so it's fun, and it's what makes it interesting, right? And so some people are attracted to that, some people are not. But for guys like us that enjoy that, it's fun. It makes every day enjoyable. All right, cool. I got a couple more random questions I wrote down that I want to see what your answers are, and I don't know. So if you could interview one person in your industry, who would it be and why?
Matt Ishbia.
Okay. Maddie. Why Maddie? Just because he's brilliant?
I got a text message the other day, like, do you know so-and-so? I said, I only know two people other than my immediate family in the mortgage business that I actually look up to. One is you.
Thank you.
And one is Matt
Maddie,
Ishbia.
yeah.
Matt Ishbia did something that I've been doing this for over 20 years, guys. I haven't witnessed it.
No.
And if you can't see it, then it's not meant for you, right? Like, but if you could see it and where you could take your level of success to, sky is the limit. You have no idea. If you are working retail, you have no idea. If you do not use UWM, you have no idea. If you don't work for Madison Mortgage and you live anywhere on the East Coast, or shit, we'll even hire remotely, you have no idea. Yeah. Because I'm telling you guys, I know the best of the best, the worst of the worst. I know every single bank, broker, I love to say almost everything, but the tech that he developed, the turnaround time, like our power that we have to take your loan from A to Z, I've never seen before. Yeah. And I've had my own mortgage banks and mortgage brokerages. I've done this before, right? I've never witnessed anything like this.
It's pretty incredible.
So
it's pretty incredible. So Maddie, we'll have to try and see if we can line up an interview with Matt for you. All right, cool. So, and final, do you have any advice for people who are not in the industry but want to get in, and whether that's in a sales or an operations capacity? What would you advise someone who's interested in getting into the industry?
I didn't know I wanted to do mortgages.
Yeah.
Right.
Accounting
Like I was
track.
going to school to be a C. I always knew I wanted to kind of work for myself. I didn't want to go, work for Goldman or, Morgan Stanley or one of these guys. They always try to put that image, instill that image in me. And I just knew it kind of wasn't for
you.
Even though I love mathematics, like I've always been a finance guy, whether I was selling this, that, but I've always been a finance guy. And I just stumbled across mortgages.
I know.
Me too. And I remember I was going to school full time. I was driving, I was going to work, taking night school. When I saw the opportunity, right, in mortgages, I said, wow. And back then we didn't even have computers. We were handwriting 1003s.
I know. The world's changed a lot. It's pretty funny, actually. I recently met someone who was in the mortgage business in the 70s. And he was doing a major amount of business. He was here in New York, and he sold his company in the 80s. But it was pretty funny. The average loan amount was like $104,000, and he was doing like $1 billion a year in loans, which is probably the equivalent of like $5 or $6 billion now. And some of the fun stories about like how you took applications, how loans were underwritten, how they were funded. I heard some great stories. A lot's changed. It's, we're about to be into 2022. And so, sky's the limit. The next 10 years will be formative, I think, in this business. Things are going to change a lot. I think a lot of the old way of approaching things and the slow, clunky, high rate retail lenders won't be able to survive. And it's the ones that are nimble and dynamic, like UWM and the sort of brokers that focus on working with them and providing clients, with an extraordinary experience and great rates and trying to do it, better, faster, and cheaper than everyone else. I think those are the companies that are going to win in the long run. So thanks for everyone for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Madison Mortgage Podcast. My main man, Eric, gave us some knowledge, gave us some of his experience, and appreciate you guys, and thank you. And if you're in retail, get out. It's time. Speak to you soon.